Alright everybody, welcome back to another Comically Boston. I'm Big Cam and today we're going to find out who's the monster. I've yet to get to this part in the show where we get to see Kingpin wearing an eye patch. I'm only 2 episodes in, no spoilers in the comments, unless you want to talk spoilers, then go talk, send me a little tweet or something, some Echo spoilers, and then question in the link below. But hey, I want to talk Echo. If you guys are enjoying it, comment below. But first, if you guys know me and you know my Comically Bostons, we're going to talk a little bit of sports, then we're going to talk about some news, then we're going to get into Echo and some juicy stuff. So first, my Boston Celtics play tonight, but the other night in Indiana, we got a bullshit loss, where the ref that I have only dubbed him as Gucci Mane because he looks like a broke discount version and short version of Gucci Mane, and I hate his guts, and I hope everyone's having a good day except for that man because he doesn't deserve it, because Jaylen Brown got fouled with like 30 seconds left, or maybe even less, and he got hit in the back of the head, and this guy said, or it got called a foul and then overturned it so that the Pacers got the ball and got to shoot free throws. How? Or no, Pacers got the ball and then shot, and then Porzingis got called with another ticky-tack foul. And it was like, even if it was a foul, you're going to overturn this clear-as-day foul on Jaylen Brown down the other end that would have gave us the advantage, and then overturn it so that now the Pacers have the advantage, then give them another ticky-tack call. Like, if they didn't call that call on JB, and then they didn't call that call on Mathurin and Porzingis, then this whole game would have been 131-131 going into overtime, and then it would have got settled there, right? Like the refs, it would have got settled by the teams. It wouldn't have got settled by the refs. This felt like a game that the Celtics now have a loss on their schedule, and the refs gave it to them, and not the Pacers, right? Like, we should be losing games by teams that earn it, not give it to them. Like, that's just some bullshit. And then the next day came out and they were like, oh, the call was right on Brown and the call was wrong on Porzingis, and it was like, wait, what? And then called some other bullshit thing, and it was like, this is some bullshit, man. Like, complete BS just to get the Celtics another loss because we're the only team in the league that has less than 10 losses. Like, we're less than double-digit losses on this season, and like, this shouldn't have counted. But even so, I think this is our 7th or 8th loss. Every single one of those losses has been by like 2 points, or like an overtime loss by like a couple points. But like, they've been close games where when we win by pretty big most of the time. We haven't had a lot of close wins this season. But we're looking forward to 2024 more and more as we get into it. We're only about 10 days in right now, but we have some DC stuff coming this year. I'm still yet to see Aquaman. That's still on my list. But we know for sure that we're getting Joker Folie à Deux with Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix in October of 2024. That should be great. And we know for sure that we're getting an HBO Max series in fall of 2024 with Colin Farrell as the Penguin. And that's going to be continuing the Batman's universe, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if the Batman himself, Robert Pattinson, will be in this, but, you know, it might be following the criminal underworld, and I ain't mad at that at all, because Colin Farrell killed it as that role. I'm curious to see if we'll see Paul Dano, the Riddler, if we'll see Zoe Kravitz, Catwoman, if we'll see Barry Keoghan's Joker. Any of those things were interesting to me. The Golden Globes was the other night. I'm just going to give a quick shout-out, Baddie of the Week, to Elizabeth Olsen. Also, you know, a woman that is super attractive, but I'm super excited to see her as the next Lois Lane. Rachel Brosnahan, she looked fantastic in this red dress with the red lipstick. If this is how my Lois Lane is looking with the... and she's short, and it's like a foot taller Superman. Oh, man, that movie is going to give me some serious heartthrob, especially because I know James Gunn knows how to write a love story, and it's going to be a love story, even though it's a superhero movie. I think his story is going to be phenomenal, and I cannot wait to see her in that role. Also, there was a movie that was starring Robert Pattinson with the director from Parasite, I believe, got moved back. I think it was called Mickey 17 or something like that. It got moved out completely from the 2024 release slate, so I don't know what's going on with that movie. But Godzilla x Kong Fallen, or New Empire, has been moved up, so we get to see our boys, Mr. Kong and Mr. Godzilla, take on whatever's happening in the Hollow Earth. But I don't know if I'm interested in that, but I've watched the rest of the Godzilla movies, so, you know, might as well check that one out. I still think it's never going to beat Godzilla -1. That movie just knocked my socks off. Also, some Star Wars news for 2024 came out, and we'll have more stuff coming this year, but it has been confirmed that Ahsoka is getting a Season 2. Shout out Rosario Dawson, you gorgeous motherfucker. Season 1 was phenomenal. I think if we're going to recast Ray Stevenson, Baylan Skoll, I just saw an option the other day that really piqued my fancy with Russell Crowe replacing him. That would be a pretty damn good replacement. I mean, caliber of actor will be there. Whether or not I think Russell Crowe will be into Star Wars, I'm not sure, but hey, fucking Russell Crowe, like, get on it, man. Get in the gym, start twirling lightsaber. But I mean, even Baylan wasn't so much of a twirler, and he wasn't like a super athletic guy. He was very powerful, but he was all up here, you know. It was all in the lines, and it was all in, you know, yeah, some power, but most of it was force power, and, you know, like, it wasn't a lot of jumping, rolling, diving, you know, like, so I think it would be a role enough that Crow could do it if he's so pleased, or maybe a Gerard Butler or something like that. But also announced yesterday from Star Wars that the Mandalorian and Grogu movie from Jon Favreau will be coming out. Will this be instead of Mandalorian Season 4, or because of Mandalorian Season 4? I don't know. Or will it be Mandalorian Season 4 and this? I'm not quite sure. But we also know it's not the Dave Filoni Star Wars movie that's the heir to the Empire. So this will be a whole separate movie just basing on Mando and Grogu, I believe. So that's cool. The Last of Us Season 2 is starting to shoot soon, and we have a confirmation that Kaitlyn Dever, this young lady over from what I've seen her here in, I believe she was in The Whale, and she was also, I haven't seen that, but I've also seen her in Last Man Standing, that show that was with Tim Allen on FX or whatever it was on, ABC, something like that. She played his daughter, and she was hilarious in that show. So she's got humor, but Abby, she's getting cast as Abby in Season 2 of The Last of Us. And if you guys have played The Last of Us Part 2, Abby is a huge character in the game and kind of comes out of left field, and you're like, who the hell is this bitch? And so I hope Kaitlyn Dever has been practicing her golf swing. If you know, you know. And I hope she gets in the gym and starts pumping that iron, because Abby's jacked. You know, she's straight jacked. And The Last of Us games are phenomenal. If you haven't played those, go check them out. But let's talk about some more news that come out before we get into the TV shows. Amazon Prime has confirmed that God of War, based on the 2018 and 2022 video game, 2023, I don't know what year that second one came out, but the original one came out in 2018. I just replayed that game recently. It's phenomenal. I can't recommend it enough, and it's not even for the PS5. It was a PS4 game, and it still was phenomenal. So now I got to go back and replay God of War Ragnarok. But they are doing a live-action version of this show for Amazon Prime, which I am super interested in. But who will play Kratos, the God of War himself? I don't know, but this image here, you can see with the green eyes, with this big beard, with the big jacked muscles, with this red tattoo that swirls around his arm and goes up over his head, down his eye. Like, whoever plays this role, you know, a lot of people saying The Rock. I mean, he's got the physique, he's maybe can grow the beard. But I'm thinking more along the lines of maybe like a Triple H, somebody said that looked like a good option. I ain't mad at like Edge. Edge would be a pretty good option. We'll talk about Edge more in a second if you guys don't know who Edge is, but Edge is from the WWE back in the day. I don't know his real name, but Edge, I know him as Edge. But I still love, you know, Christopher Judge, the guy that voiced the role in the newer video games. If he got a chance to do it in live action, I think he would do a phenomenal job. But some of these guys are in their older age, like they're not necessarily young, but this is an older Kratos. But, you know, we're going to need a pretty spectacular stunt double if we're going to get one of these guys, and they can't do a lot of action, because this God of War does quite a bit, you know, of jumping and diving and strength and shit, and I don't know what they're going to do with the show, but if it's anything like the game is phenomenal. But I'm not mad at like a Christopher Judge or like a Dave Bautista. I think Bautista would absolutely destroy this show. But then also you have to get Atreus, who plays Atreus. I would give it to Sonny and Chris Judge, and then even bring back Deborah Wolf, Ann Wolf as a Freya, the mother. You know, like I would bring them all back, and then get a couple other actors to be sub character roles. But I wouldn't change much from the game to the live action series. And if I was Amazon, I would be looking very much so at The Last of Us Season 1, where they adapted the game into a show, and for the game players, you knew what was going to happen, but also gave you some new things that you didn't know was going to happen, expanded the story where it could have been expanded for a show, but not really so great for the game, right? Like the story between Bill and Frank with Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett in Season 1, Episode 3, right? Like, there's some great stuff going on in there, and I can't wait for Season 2 of The Last of Us. But I've been also watching Percy Jackson. Episode 5 just came out the other day, and it says a god buys us cheeseburgers, and they have to go sit on Hephaestus's throne and get back Ares' shield. And who is Ares? But Edge. And I thought Edge here was going to be Poseidon. So we still don't know who Poseidon is, but Edge is Ares, god of war, in this. So I don't know, Edge would maybe be a great god of war in the God of War franchise with Amazon, but he's a pretty mean Ares in this show so far, riding motorcycles, talking shit. I like his beard. I like his little mohawk idea that they got going on. And it's good to see Edge in something. Acting, I fucking loved him in the WWE, so good to see Edge, man. Good to see Edge. But that show's been pretty damn good. I like the show, honestly, better than I like the movies. I remember reading the books and watching the movies as a kid. And, I don't know, the show's just better. But let's move on. Let's talk about Echo, Episode 1, Chafa. And it starts out with this crazy, like, throwback, like, people coming out of the mud that look like they're covered in mud, at least. And then they're like, drinking this pool, and, like, they should get powers into their hands. It's like this swirling, like, glowing power. It hasn't really been explained what we're looking at quite yet. I'm hoping the remaining episodes will, but I'm only 2 episodes in. So, I don't want to talk spoilers. I just want to talk my ideas and what I'm thinking about so far. But Episode 1 starts out with that, and then we cut to Maya as a kid with her cousin Bonnie, and they're doing puppet shadows, and everyone knows sign language talking to Maya. So, like, it feels so good to see this show and have a superhero villain that's deaf and an amputee, but it feels right. You know what I mean? No one's like catering to her. No one's like, oh, you poor thing, you probably need help. No, like, she's a badass and she's got it. And she doesn't need to communicate with anybody, but if you want to communicate with her, you got to learn a little bit of sign language, right? I know this. Bullshit. But Episode 1 was great, but it starts off heavy, right? Lets you know that this is a TVMA show immediately. And we haven't even seen Kingpin go off on that dude in the alley like we've seen in the trailer yet. So we haven't even seen that level of TVMA. But the first episode, right, gets right into it, and it's raining, and the girls are out in a tent. They come running inside, and much like Maya as a young girl, she goes, Mom, I would like to get some cocoa. And she said, we're out, but let's go to the store and get some. You can help me. Let's go. So they go to the store to get some hot cocoa. And as this scene's happening, I'm actually drinking some hot cocoa myself. So I'm drinking some hot cocoa, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, they're going to get cocoa. Ah, cheers. And then they get in the car, and someone had cut the mom's brakes in the truck. And she's trying to stop, and Maya's like, what's wrong, Mom? And a car comes out, T-bones them. The mom dies. A piece of shrapnel punctures through her right leg, like below calf down to like ankle area, and it's tough. And this little girl doesn't really show that much pain, right? Like, so you can see that Maya's been this tough son of a bitch since day one, like, because this shit happens. She has to get surgery to amputate. It's like, it's for a little girl. Like, this is tough stuff to see, and this is the start of the show. So, and then we get some Hawkeye flashing training backs, like when she was a kid and she's in that little dojo, and we see the Kingpin come up and pinch her chink, and she's like, "Thank you, Uncle." And we never actually see D'Onofrio's face yet in the Hawkeye show, but we heard his chuckle, and like, you know, saw his little hand. But we kind of cut between her doing the shit as a kid to her in the gym as an adult, and you know, her in the gym, she kicks this dude's ass and fucking makes him stay down. But that metal leg, man, she uses that thing as a weapon, and it's like devastating, but also like, yeah, do it, girl. But we get to the, you know, the Hawkeye stuff where we get to see her showing up on the bike and seeing Ronan go through the shop, killing people, kills her dad. Ronan jumps out the window. We find out later that Ronan is Hawkeye. We find out that Hawkeye killed her dad, not just because he wanted to, but because the Kingpin wanted him dead. So why does the Kingpin want his right-hand man dead? We don't know, but Maya has been this new weapon that Kingpin has been aiming for the last however long. And yeah, it's some tough stuff, man. Like, sees everything that happens with Kingpin. She has to bury her father, and then she starts like acting out, and she's like robbing a motorcycle place, and she doesn't hear the cop headlights coming, and then all of a sudden she sees the lights flashing behind her, and she turns around and goes like this, takes off her little scrunchie in her hair, puts it around the bike handle, and just goes like this, but sends a bike through the window onto a cop car, and then doesn't like run away, lets herself get arrested. Kingpin shows up, gets her unarrested, like just walks up to the cops, pretty much just takes the cuffs off her and just brings her with him and goes, "Listen, I understand your rage, but like I need to focus this rage. We need to point this rage in a direction. We can't just have you out here killing people and doing dumb shit and getting arrested for no reason. Like, let me help you aim this rage into a certain thing." So then he sends her on her first job with 2 other of his loyal guys. They knock on the door. Kingpin thanks you for his loyalty, shoots the guy right at the door, and you're like, holy shit, this is some action. Then this whole action sequence, like 20 minutes in, is fantastic. Maya does some great stuff. She has to snap this dude's neck, so then she kills her first guy, and then she stands up after and starts doing some more shit. And then who comes in but Charlie Cox's Daredevil, and he's pissed because he's been watching these guys all night, and she just comes in and ruins it. And she actually holds her own quite well with the Daredevil, although he looks like he's not necessarily trying his hardest. She you know, keeps trying to go for weapons and stuff, and he's not using no guns on her. But you know, it's a blind man versus a deaf woman, you know, like crazy, you know, like it's such crazy times in life that, you know, this is happening and that we see this happening. But I absolutely love Charlie Cox's Daredevil, and I hope we actually get to see him more in the show, because it's brief, not very long, but it's a badass fight scene. He's in it, he's out, you know, and he fights her, and then she turns around with the gun and he's gone, you know what I mean? And we haven't seen him again since, but I'm only 2 episodes in. This is still the first episode that we're talking about. But she then goes back to like her mom's house, or after, you know, the end of Hawkeye, she shoots Kingpin in the face. Kingpin wanted him dead, so she shoots Kingpin, and you hear just the thud of him hitting the ground. And then we cut to 5 months later, after Hawkeye. And then she pulls up on a motorcycle at a rest stop. She's hurt, she's bleeding, so we don't know what that's from, because of 5 months later, she's not still going to be bleeding from Hawkeye 5 months earlier, right? I mean, at least that's what I'm assuming. It's from something else. But she pulls up at this rest stop. She's driving a bike, bleeding down the motorcycle. She's driving this motorcycle through the night in Oklahoma back roads, and she's starting to fall asleep. I thought she was going to wreck the bike right there. Instead, she almost hits a truck, swerves into the other lane, almost hits oncoming traffic, swerves back, and she's kind of just like, all right, let's get there. You know, like, woo, I think we've all been there. We all start for a second. We're like, oh my God, I'm up. But you're on a motorcycle. There's wind coming at you. I mean, I'm sure it's relaxing at a certain point, but like, you still got the, you know, like this engine right there. Like, I personally, I don't know if I'd be able to fall asleep on a motorcycle. But she's hurt. She could have been passing out from the losing blood, you know. So I'm not too nitpicky about it. But she goes back to her childhood home, her chula's house, her grandma's house, and stitches herself up with dental floss, then goes to sleep and wakes up with visions of the beginning of the episode with that woman that was covered in mud and drinking the power fluid, whatever. They were like underground somewhere. I have no idea what those people are, but it's super interesting stuff. I have no idea. Like, it's making me keep going, okay, who the hell is this shit? Like, but she wakes up and then somebody's knocking on the door. It's her cousin Biscuits, which is just a great name, and he's fucking hilarious. He's like, oh my god, Maya, you're back. That's my dog, Billy Jack. He's like, oh my god, how are you? Like, she's like, hey, I don't want nobody to know I'm here type shit. So he's like, okay, you know, I'll try and keep it a secret as much as I can. Then the skating rink she goes to, and it's the guy Sam from Twilight, the guy that's like the head of the wolf pack in Twilight. For the Twilight fans out there, that's how I know him, at least. But he's playing Henry, which is the guy that owns the skating rink, I believe. But he's also kind of working for Fisk's shipping company out here in Oklahoma, which is crazy to show that Kingpin's reach from New York isn't just like New York, you know, Connecticut, Rhode Island. It's not like the areas around New York. Oklahoma's in the middle of the country, so he's got his hand in things way out in the middle of the country type of deal. You know, he's got shipping companies all over the place doing God knows what. But she asked Henry for help. I keep calling him Sam because that's his name in Twilight. I believe that's his name. But Henry helps her, brings a mortician in, which is a mortician, like, is a person that works on dead bodies. So he's like, this is the closest thing you got. Like, this is who's going to help. And the lady's like, come on, show me. And she pulls up her shirt, and it's like infected. It looks gross because she stitched herself up with dental fucking floss. So she gets her stitches fixed from this mortician, but she needs more help. And she asks Henry to help her get a train car. Wants his help, and Kingpin had his run. It's time for a queen, which, ooh, I was like, such good writing. But it hits so much different when you have to read what she's saying, right? Like, you can't just listen. Because I find myself, when I'm listening, I don't necessarily watch as much. You know, I'm like, I get what's going on. It's just a conversation scene. You just have to listen. But conversation scenes with Maya, you have to watch because she's signing and subtitles. So, like, it's engaging me more into her dialogue, and I kind of like it, you know. That line, Kingpin had his run, it's time for a queen, meaning herself. She's like, I'm the queen, it's time to go. Queenpin, fuck the Kingpin, I'm here for it. Like, let's Maya be the queen badass that she is. But he declines her help, says he never saw her, we never had this conversation, and then it cuts to the end of the episode where we get an IV drip on the Kingpin. He's alive in a hospital, heavy breathing, slow breathing. He sounds like he's banged up, but he's alive, he's in the hospital. So that's the end of episode 1, and stay tuned for the next video. We're going to be breaking down episode 2, Loak. And I've been really loving Echo so far, so I hope you guys enjoy this video. Comment below what you thought of Echo episode 1, and I can't wait to watch the rest of the season. But I'm going to be talking about Echo episode 2 in a moment, so I'll see you in the next video. Peace.